Van Jones, Van Jones, Van Jones. Let's talk about Van Jones. Because Van Jones has been on some BS lately. But it's like quiet and it's low behind the scenes. He's like, you don't see me. I've always had like a little bit of distaste for Van Jones. You know what I'm saying? Because whenever I see him, he's on TV crying. He's on CNN. Black dude. Hold on, let me explain to Van Jones. If you don't know who Van Jones is, what is Van Jones? Van Jones is a lawyer by, profession or degree. But Van Jones has just always been like a political operative. He worked in journalism. He went to Yale Law School. He's worked for this foundation fighting police violence. He used to be a Maoist at one point. I didn't know that. And a Marxist. So, but this is how these dudes like Van Jones get created though, right? So Van Jones, what's up? So Van Jones was a Maoist, and that's like the deepest Marxist. That's like the deepest form of communist, like anti-capitalism and all that. But anyway, long story short, let me be quick because I gotta get this shit over with. But so Van Jones is going through all these five foundations, and then this is when I started noticing BS. He started something called eco-capitalism. I said eco-capitalism. Those are oxymorons. It's impossible. You can't be eco-friendly and a capitalist. But anyway, long story short, people argue down on that. But long story short, he becomes Barack Obama's secretary of some green jobs or something, some BS title. And he gets in there, but he gets kicked out because he said something about Obama was all about bipartisanship, and he said something where we need to fight the way that they fight us. We can't be whatever. So they were like, we don't want that. Get him out. So long story short, right? Ever since then, Van Jones has just been on like CNN, a commentator on this and that. He's the black guy that they call whenever there's a police killing. Van Jones, call Van Jones. Hey, it's Martin Luther King Day. Hey, call Van Jones. Hey, there's a Donald Trump. Let's get somebody who's black who can say, call Van Jones. Van Jones has been that guy for like the last couple of years. Now, like I said, I never really liked him because he's always crying. Like Van Jones, I've never seen a person cry more on TV. And the police violence after I'm like, bro, okay, but don't be crying. You're a grown man, bro. We can't be looking weak out here. You're representing black men right now. And he's always seemed like, you guys are being so mean. And it's like, it's a problem, but we're not crybabies about it. Now, after that, I kind of, next time I see him, Jeff Bezos gives him $100 million to his foundation. I'm like, what is Jeff Bezos giving him $100 million for? I don't get it. What is Bezos, right? But that's the last I've heard of him. Like, he's like a real democratic guy, and he goes back to that. And then recently, this is what I say about these opportunist people, bro. In politics, it won't change nothing. We don't live in a democracy. We live in a republic. But all of a sudden, he pops up on my time feed, standing in front of an Israeli flag, giving a speech like this. I said, what the fuck is Van Jones up to? This nigga, he get around. Van ain't playing. He gets around. And then he's up there, we are the Jewish community needs to be to the anti-Semitism. I said, whoa, Van, what you got going on? Right? And so recently he got in trouble. He's on Bill Maher, the news channel, and he says, well, we have to be careful what we're watching online because Iran spends millions and millions of dollars creating propaganda trying to divide America. And he says this, he goes, if you go on TikTok, these kids are seeing in Gaza, dead baby, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby, dead Bobby, dead Bobby. dead body, dead baby Gaza, whatever. I'm sorry, I'm trying to cross the street. But dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby. Diddy gave out it and the crowd laughs. And it's kind of like, bro, you kind of conflating that's not really funny, bro. You're making jokes about dead babies? Like that's crazy, my guy. That's crazy. But this is my final point, right? This is what I try to tell people. Right? The government system, it's not meant to change anything. How can someone start as a Maoist and end up on the Zionist side? I'll tell you how. What a lot of these people do when they come up in this political space, they do mean well, right? And if they're real crafty, they can get in the door. But once they get in the door, they realize how strong that door is. So now you have a choice. Because now I guess he's in his 50s now. His career is coming to an end. You try to help. You try to do the right thing. But you're not, being an activist and telling the truth, you're not going to make money. But being a black man and selling all those years of resistance and political activism, and they're ready to cash in at the end. So what these people like to do is they create these 501c3s, nonprofit organizations. And so someone like a Bezos or someone like the Israeli lobbyists, when they're in trouble, they'll be like, hey, call Van. The black guy, he's been in the community for years. Call him. He can help you get some sympathy from the black community. So he'll call Van and say, hey, Van, hey, this is Bibi Netanyahu. Bibi Netanyahu, we looking bad. Can you help us out? And he'll be like, yeah. You know, if you just donate to our police reform program, wink, wink, police reform, you know, we can figure out what we can do for you. And so that's how they launder money. That's why we call it dark money. So when you're seeing Van Jones stand in front of the Israeli flag, it's not that he cares about Israel. They just cut him the check. You know what I'm saying? So Van Jones is probably worse than Candace Owens at this point. Van, good Lord, brother, dang. You cashing out, you going broke or something, man. You must be going broke. But that's crazy, brother. But yeah, bro, we done with Van Jones. He's a sucker. He's always been one. As a black man, you don't go on TV just crying every episode. Roll out the, and I'm Google YouTube right now. Van Jones crying on TV. You're gonna see a 3-minute monologue of this brother just crying, tears. It's like, why do y'all keep putting this soft punk muff up to represent us? Like, why? Throw Umar on that muff. But anyway. Y'all, chase knowledge, don't chase money. Van Jones. Chase knowledge, don't chase money. Peace, love, and positivity. Van Jones, brother, you going out sad.